Are we rolling? Yes. Yes. No glasses. What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the It Bees Like That podcast. I'm your host, Chris. Today, I think what I'm going to talk about has to do, it's kind of a nuanced conversation, right? But it has to do with essentially talking to ourselves. Now, when I say talking to ourselves, you may get this image in your mind of maybe something that I'm doing right now, where I'm in a room by myself and I'm talking, but I'm actually talking to a camera, thereby talking to you. But you may get an image of yourself or a person riding in their car, practicing dialogue, or prepping for an argument, or an apology, or perhaps they're disappointed in themselves and they're being critical and chastising themselves, or just talking to themselves in general. Now, we all laugh and we may joke and say that this type of practice signals some significant mental health, and in some circumstances, I would agree that yes, indeed, that it does. However, you can generally pick up on that, not always, because not all illnesses are visible, but what I mean by talking to ourselves or talking to yourself, it doesn't necessarily have to be an outward articulation of a thought or a feeling, right? It could be things that we don't or we are not actively doing for ourselves, sending messages to ourselves through omission of certain habits or the application of others. What the hell is he talking about? Let's simplify it a little bit. Now, I just watched I think it was a TikTok, but those TikToks are everywhere. You don't have to just be on the TikTok app to access some of these TikTok videos. Anyway, I just watched one, and it was really succinct and true and very direct. I personally find the direct approach in communication to be the most effective and efficient for me, especially just mentally. it relieves a lot of pressure and stress saying exactly without intentionally hurting someone, because sometimes we should reserve even direct communication with people if in the end it's only going to serve to frustrate, confuse, or hurt someone, because that's never the goal. None of those things, right? Always build up, never break down. So I figured I would take that message that I really appreciate and I 100% agree with, and I would unpack it just a little bit. Essentially what the message of the video is, our body, meaning the way we present visually and aesthetically, how we are able to perform, how physically we recover from tasks, physical activities, whatever, is a direct reflection of the value that we assess to ourselves, but also to habits and behaviors that are good for us. And in the same turn, it also is a direct reflection of the habits that we value that may work directly against our own best interest. And in this context, we're speaking directly to physical fitness. And yes, that means not only going to the gym and working out to feel better, but also elevated body fat percentages and the increased likelihood of health problems, how all those markers increase significantly and elevate your risk to developing really serious, especially if you're my age and older, 45 plus, significant health issues that on the, let's face it, back end of our lives, we don't bounce back from as quickly, and even if we have not gotten sick, we don't have much more time to allot to just this free-flowing, directionless approach to our lives. If I really want to demonstrate to myself, I'm not talking about the world, but if I want to truly demonstrate to myself that I value this one body that I've been given and this mind for reason, I'm going to use that ability to reason. I'm going to take care of this body, and I'm going to practice and build habits that demonstrate the value that I place on any of these things, right? So when I was out of shape, that just said to me, I don't value my body, I don't value my physical fitness, I don't value my mental health, I don't value my spiritual fitness enough to take the time to practice the habits or build the habits that I know or that I already have that I just don't use, that are going to improve my life and experience with the world exponentially, because there's no secret or debate. I, in fact, have only met one person who shall remain anonymous who has said that, and I think this is, in my opinion, just a cop-out, or the setup for a reservation, right? For when the time eventually came that this person would abandon their fitness goals, abandon working out, abandon nutrition, as it's just not for them. What I've heard directly from this person is that when they work out, and this was after about 9 months, but when they work out, they don't feel the endorphins. Okay, I'm no chemical biologist, but I really struggle to, at least in my information tool bag, reach in and reference anything that says that this is a condition that people, when they work out, feel worse. Like I said, I've only met one. And this person went further on to say that they actually feel angrier and more stressed when they leave the gym. Okay, well, needless to say, this person, yeah, they need some work is where I'll leave that. Anyway, for most of my adult life, and even some of my teenage years, early and middle and late teens, I didn't have, how do I want to say this? I didn't practice a lot of the things that I do now. And I mean, a lot of the things, where I'm at now today comes with a lot of experience. And you do, as your brain develops and you have more life experiences, age out of some of those behaviors. I used to say, I don't know how accurate this is with regard to science and the disease concept of addiction, but it's hypothesized that when you begin actively using substances in a way that is either abusive or chronic in nature, that you, at that point, arrest the maturation process, pick one or a few, intellectual, social, emotional, etc. All of these things either fall behind or completely stop. I do not know that they all completely stop, or else I would still be 10, right? I think in some ways I am. Still laugh at farts. Anyway, I didn't have a lot of those, the considered to be normative and functional habits that I do now, which keep me grateful, spiritually grounded, emotionally balanced, and physically fit. Something that was more constant than all of the things that I was missing was fitness. And looking back, I would be it would be a pretty terrible mistake on my part not to acknowledge that fitness in some way, shape, or form during points of my growth and maturation to this point from, I'd say, 16, that it hasn't been there and gotten me through some pretty dark times would be not only inaccurate, but it would be a terrible mistake, because fitness adds so much value to my life. And I think that it can to others' lives too, but there, that I see are some general obstacles that a lot of people face. One of them being lack of experience. No one likes to look foolish, so it can be an obstacle, that barrier to access getting started, going to a gym, not feeling like you're just kind of like a fish out of water, feeling really self-conscious. I didn't go through any of that any time I've ever gotten fit, even the first time that I stepped into a gym, mostly because I was so focused on my heroes and really didn't care what the people around me thought about what I was doing. But some other obstacles may be, the novelty of it, not just lack of experience, but again, it's something new. And I think that overall people have a desire to do well at things, and it's discouraging to be a novice at things, for lack of a better term. But it's also, if you reframe that, it's also pretty fun, right, to learn a new skill, especially if it's something that you see results from consistently as you stay focused and in it. Like, you have to stay in it. You can't just go into cruise control or autopilot, but staying focused and connected to the whole process, and tracking, your journey. It can be really, really fun. Frustrating at first, sure, because fitness for everyone isn't an immediate or instant gratification for that desire to be socially attractive or strong or muscular or whatever. But long story short is the person who'd made this video was 100% accurate in their assessment of our current physical presentation is a direct reflection of the value that we place on what we put into our bodies, how well we rest and recover our bodies, the kind of stress and physical activity that we place on our bodies, and how intentional we are with managing things like body fat percentage, weight gain, and I don't mean specifically just with fat weight gain, because we all know this. When we build muscle, there's naturally going to occur some fat accumulation, but just being mindful and intentional with your approach, you can minimize a lot of that and mitigate most of the unwanted, or like the excess accumulation of not only fat but new fat cells, because that literally means you're getting fatter and not just bigger. Does that make sense? Anyway, we'll dip into that another time. But I felt the need to expand on this video a bit and the messaging, and just really encourage people to steer away from environments or people and conversations that would encourage you or guide you to not celebrate yourself and not place value on yourself and not set boundaries that are going to protect you from things that are going to impact you negatively and remove joy and progress from your life. These are completely acceptable things for any person to do. It's really odd, and I don't understand exactly where it comes from, and that could be an entirely separate episode, but and it's so wacky to me. There's this idea that celebrating ourselves in top physical shape or at the top of our game of whatever, life, career, etc., that is to be too boastful to be considered a braggart, overly confident, egocentric, narcissistic. However, to celebrate ourselves at our lowest or at our most modest or mid-level performance, this is the true essence, considered to be like the true essence of being a human being, and that the idea being that the diversity that's most appreciated comes in that form, that people shouldn't try to manage their physical body, not just because of how it looks to other people and how they respond to symmetry and biology, but just for yourself. You can't tell me, because I've been overweight, been significantly overweight, you cannot tell me that there's joy there and that people are happy with these bodies. They're happy occupying these bodies that essentially have them trapped. There's a lot of stuff that I see people who are extremely overweight they can't do. And one of the reasons why I'm able to, and why I'm not tremendously overweight, I mean, there are a few reasons. I don't get loaded anymore, and I take care of my body. I get plenty of sleep, and I am on a negativity restriction. Like, the natural amounts of negativity and conflict that occur in my life, they cannot be avoided. That is where I practice processing my emotions and feelings. I don't need any extracurricular or additional negativity and stress placed upon my life, right? One of the ways that I do that, and we're going to circle back to this, and you're going to hate me and think I sound like a broken record, but one of the ways that I do that is I maintain my physical fitness. Now, I do acknowledge and count myself fortunate that this activity and lifestyle is something that from the beginning felt very natural for me, and it was something that I gravitated to, and I've covered this before, that it's something that in my world then, when I first experienced working out, my world around me was so chaotic. This was the thing that allowed not only my mind, my body, and my spirit to be connected, doing the same thing at the same time, but it also gave me direct control over my immediate environment, meaning my body. And that is powerful. It was powerful for me then, and it is powerful for me now. And this is one of the reasons why I deliver content like this, and another one of the reasons why I love being a coach, because to see that click for people, or to see people build into that, and the confidence and self-assurance that comes from that, and the liberation that comes from that, it's amazing, man. It's amazing. And then you begin to see, with that confidence and assurance and liberation, a person's true self begin to emerge. The same way with when people get clean and sober. That's why I loved working at Detox so much, because it kept me close, right, to a reality that was once mine, and that could very well be mine again if I don't continue to live by spiritual principles and take care of myself. But it was the same thing, right? Seeing a person's essence and true self, or truer self, begin to emerge after a number of days, and the life comes back, and the color comes back into their cheeks, and the life in their eyes, and they may even laugh and joke and crack a smile here and there as they're beginning to recover and feel better. Going through that myself personally with my addiction, fitness was that thing too. Like, so many people get clean and they don't have an outlet like that. I did, and I do. I'm fortunate for that. But I always knew. I knew. See, there's a blessing in that too. Like, no matter where I was physically, I always knew that I understood the formula, I understood the process, and that the day would come where I committed to my life again, and I would make that yet again another transformation. And that over and above anything else that people could take from this message about valuing ourselves, I think should be the most important takeaway. Never is it the goal to make people feel bad, and that's where I wanted to unpack that video a bit. I won't play it, but unpack the message. Never is it the intended goal to make people feel bad. Will that happen? Of course it will, because change hurts, reality can be painful, and truth can be painful as well. And sometimes the truth for some of us is that we're not doing the things in our lives that we need to do in order to secure the happiness, joy, serenity, and contentment and peace that we seek. And if you're at a certain age, you really don't have any latitude to feign ignorance and complain about being victimized, if especially you're able, right? Because today is like none other when it comes to access to information. Everyone has a cell phone that can access Wi-Fi. Whether or not one is a half a millisecond faster than another or has better pictures is irrelevant. They all give you the same level of access. It may be a bit more convenient on a laptop or a device with a bigger screen, but it's literally all there for everyone. Well, those that are interested. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think essentially that's pretty much it. I do really, really wish that I could give away, and I do, but I wish I could give away literal bits of the joy that I feel. Sometimes I feel like I have, because people reflect that to me about our interactions, but sometimes I wish that without taxing my own dangerously, like I could just give, even if temporarily, a bit of what I've found, just to give someone or a person, anyone, something to shoot for. Because having hope is extremely, extremely powerful. Without hope, I wouldn't be here today. 5 years ago, when I looked at my life, the current state of which was pretty hopeless, I asked myself a few simple questions, but one in particular was one that I'd been asked by someone before, and one that I ask people today who were in similar situations to me now than I was then. And that is, even if you don't have or you can't provide for yourself a clear, distinct, and defined image of you existing in the life that you desire, even if it's not that clear, can you even just close your eyes and just in that darkness and stillness feel or see any hope at all, like even for a direction, because if you can grab it, you may need to hold it gently at first because it may be small and fragile, but it'll build in strength and size as you continue to do those next right things, make the next right steps, and recover from mistakes, because those are going to happen too. But if at all you can feel that small amount of hope, build on that. You don't have to have everything figured out. Just build on that. The same thing goes for fitness. If you see or have, just a simple example would be, if there is a version of your body, physical body, and an aesthetic in your mind that is realistic for you, something that you can fold into your life somewhat naturally. You have to make some adjustments, but fold that in mostly naturally. Do that. It's the same thing. And the keys here too, and I know this is true because I've done it and I do it. The keys here are to, and I can't stress this enough, be honorable in every aspect of your life. Everything hinges on that. If you cannot find a way to live an honorable, dependable, and grateful life, luck is going to be your best ally when we're talking about progress and achieving goals. Dumb luck in mathematics, meaning the odds. You're going to hit sometimes and you're going to lose most of the others because you won't have the spiritual framework and foundation to build these things out. Because these are your responsibility. Your ideas and images and dreams are your responsibility and yours alone. If you're fortunate enough to have people around you who believe in you and love you and will walk beside you and support you, that's amazing. Even if you do, they won't always be there. There will be moments when it will be required of you to blaze that trail alone. And that's important, because there are lessons there about yourself that can only be learned that way, and won't happen. Like that miracle won't happen for you unless you're present in those moments. Now, you might say to this, well, I don't give a shit about bodybuilding and fitness and blah, 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 and this and that. And whether you like bodybuilding is irrelevant. Whether you like the fitness industry as a whole is irrelevant. Whether you like yourself enough to not continue to trash your body with alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, toxic relationships, negativity, lack of sleep, lack of gratitude, and a full, steady diet of just negativity. That's what's more important. Physical fitness, taking care of our bodies, is one of the most prolific and effective gateways and pathways to all of these other things. Done intentionally with a mindful approach, specific to your goals and needs and how your body responds to stimulus and nutrition and etc. Doing the footwork there. Don't be lazy and figure this shit out. Those habits are the same habits that are going to see you be successful in business, in building networking relationships, in marriage, in dating. It's the same formula. You starting to see a pattern emerge? You don't need a therapist's prescription or a doctor's note to go to the gym. Most of us don't anyway. You don't need to be big and jacked. You don't need to be slim and sexy. You don't need to be pretty. You don't need to be handsome. You don't need to be any of those things. The only requirement is that you're able, and that's a requirement because you can't do it otherwise. The only requirements are is that you're willing and able and committed. You're going to make me say it? Same thing with life. Almost all other areas of your life. Anyway, that's it, man. If you didn't do it on the way in, Please do it on the way out. Hit that like, subscribe, post notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the crazy and wacky stuff we talk about here on the ABs Like That podcast. I'm your host again, Chris. Peace, y'all.